Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ask Jes, my weekly video podcast. How is everyone doing out there? Say hello if you're here. I would love to see you. Today, we're going to talk about simple strategies to stop overbuying stuff. Who needs simple strategies to stop overbuying stuff? I think probably we all do. Right? It's so easy these days to bring stuff into our world and there's so much stuff in the world that we can bring into our house. And so I am excited today to share with you on this episode of Ask Jes, all things clutter. Hi, Amy and Sherry and Patty. How are you? I am so excited to share with you simple strategies that you can use right now, that you can implement into your life right now to stop overbuying. If you guys went through my boot camp last week, which was super fun, or if you've been following me for a long time, you know that one of my big things that I talk about all the time is if you want to get on top of the clutter in your house, you need to stop the flow of stuff coming into your house, right? Stop the flow coming in, increase the flow going out. If you've heard me say this before, give me a, heard it, or a thumbs up, or a whatever. It's one of my core principles, and once you really fully embrace it, it changes your life, and it makes your decluttering and living with a decluttered and organized home so much easier. So, how can we start to stop overbuying or just simply reduce the amount that we buy? My first strategy is to educate yourself about the company that you're purchasing stuff from. So education goes a long way. And the more that you find out about the corporation that you're supporting, that can be a big motivator to stop supporting that corporation. Now, it can also be a big motivator to support that corporation or to support a company that has values that are in alignment with your values. So understanding the values of the company that you're supporting really is a big key point. So I'm going to give you guys an example. And so I'm a professional organizer, but I am by no means perfect at this, right? Because perfection is never the goal. Done is better than perfect, and we're all on a life journey. So I am just happy to share with you that I am still in the process of breaking up with Amazon. We have been breaking up for a long, long time. And one way that I am really able to reduce the amount that I purchase from Amazon is by learning more about Amazon. And luckily for me and my wallet, Amazon is a pretty horrible corporation. There's tons and tons of news stories out there about how poor their working conditions are, how they have totally monopolize their delivery system in a way that jeopardizes human life. And this is all reported on from trustworthy news sites. This is not fake news. You can go out and go ahead and read all of these articles. But learning more about the corporate culture at Amazon has enabled me to severely reduce the amount of stuff that I purchase from Amazon. So I think finding out a little bit more about the companies that you're supporting with your hard-earned cash can definitely give you some motivation to make different choices. And if you shop at the dollar store, if you shop at Walmart, if you shop at Target, if you shop at Amazon, find out about these corporations. They may be better than you expected. They may not be as good as you expected, right? So just get a little bit more information, and that enables you to make an educated decision about where you are going to spend your money. Lyndon says, I used to drive for Amazon, Lyndon. Should we ask you? I've heard about the situation with drivers at Amazon and just how incredibly, It's really bad. So I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, so that's step number one. Educate yourself about the corporations that you are supporting, right? Because most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, the corporations don't really care about you. They just care about your money, right? And they don't care about their workers, and they just care about your money. So learning that and having that information can really guide you in the right direction. Okay, step number 2, and I'm just going to stop and quickly say hello, Willette, hello, Brenda, Amy, Sherry, Amy, Sally, Carolyn, Lori. You guys are all so awesome for being here. I'm so happy to see your beautiful faces. Okay, step number 2, educate yourself about the stuff that you are purchasing. So this is another bit of education can really guide your buying decisions and encourage you to buy less in general. So I like to think about the life cycle of a thing. Like, how did it get to be created and how did it get to be like down the road from me in a store, right? So a lot of times when I start to think about the life cycle of something, there's 5 steps in the life cycle of any object. The first one is extraction, and that's where the raw materials are extracted from the earth. So if you learn a little bit about extraction, you learn, of course, that there's a lot of environmental damage that happens when things are extracted from the earth, when raw materials are extracted from the earth. Again, not all the time. There is sustainable ways to do things, but in general, the $2, $1 piece of plastic that you're purchasing that was actually made across the world and shipped to you and is sold for $1 probably was not made with the best of environmental protections around it, right? So number 1 is extraction. So I always think, how was this thing made? Like, how did these raw materials get pulled from the earth to create this item? After extraction is production. So that's where all of the raw materials are sent to a factory and actually the item is assembled, produced, put together, right? So oftentimes, if I want to purchase something, I look up, like, how is this made? It's a curiosity to me. Like, how does this thing get to be made? Is this something that I can fully understand and support with my money, right? Okay, so how is it made? And then so we have extraction, production. Distribution is next. That is when the item is actually shipped to you, right? And so again, I think about how far did this have to travel to get to me? Even with my produce, I look at the country of origin and I think, wow, is this worth me purchasing this thing that was grown many countries away? And maybe it is, and maybe it's not, but it's part of my buying decision is understanding really how it got to me. After extraction, production, and distribution is consumption. So that is when you actually purchase something and use it. So that's consumption. And then is disposal is the 5th part. But I like to think as part of my buying decision, what is in this item that I'm purchasing? Do I want this in my house? Do I want this in my life? Do I want this in my body? Do I want this to give this to my family? I also, in general, I'm curious about the ingredients in things. And one tool that I use, for example, for my cosmetics is an app called Think Dirty. And that app, you can scan your cosmetics and you can see all of the ingredients that are in your cosmetics, and then it rates the ingredients on their toxicity. So that's a good guide for me for cosmetics, because things that have a lot of ingredients with high toxicity in them, I would prefer just not to put onto my body. So, so that's another way that I can just get more education around what I'm purchasing. And I find the more I educate myself in general, the less I purchase. So you find out about the companies that you're buying from and find out about the stuff that you're actually buying. So those are my two strategies right now. Strategy number 3, and if you did boot camp last week, this is not new to you. Take a break from buying. Just take a break. Reset your zero, right? So we tend to do things habitually, right? Just as a habit. Everything we do in life, much of what we do in life is just habitual. We are driving past a store, we stop in to browse, right? We are bored at work, we hop onto Amazon to see what the deal of the day is. We're sitting and waiting for our kids to be done with their activities. We're scrolling our Facebook feed and seeing lots of advertisements. Take a break from buying for 1 week, for 1 month, for whatever period it is, so you can reset your zero and you can think about what has just become a habit and what is done with intention when it comes to purchasing. So I liken this all the time to the many times that I have taken a break from eating sugar. I can never, after I take a 30-day break from eating sugar, I can never eat as much sugar as I ate before that 30-day break, because I've reset my zero. So I encourage you to reset your zero when it comes to spending. Have a week where you just don't buy anything. And honestly, I've done this with so many people now. What I hear over and over again is that when you commit to not buying for a week, it's a relief. It's a relief. So it's so interesting, because when you feel relieved from not purchasing something, that's a lesson in and of itself. Purchasing is actually stressful. I mean, we do it to fill voids, which feel good, but then it feels bad sometimes. So if taking a break from buying feels like a relief, let's use this as a learning process, right? This is a little lesson here. So how is this resonating so far? Are you guys finding these tips to be helpful? I have one more tip here. And this tip came from going through boot camp, because I'm always learning also, right? So I'm always learning about people and their habits and how things are done that I'm not really aware of. So we did boot camp last week, Clutter Boot Camp, for 5 days. There were thousands of people that joined Clutter Boot Camp. And when we were talking about buying and breaking your habits around purchasing, a lot of people commented that they are in Facebook groups that encourage them to buy things, like Facebook groups that are like couponing groups or deal of the day groups or direct sales groups inside of Facebook. So I guess I knew that all this existed, but it hadn't really resonated with me before doing boot camp. I want to say to you, if you feel like you need to take a break from buying, remove yourself from anything that triggers a purchase, including a Facebook group. So you can always get back into a Facebook group if you need to. You can also just stay in a group and stop seeing the notifications. So if you are in a group that is triggering you to make a purchase, consider taking a break from that as a way to reduce your overspending. How does that sound to you guys? Lisa says, I didn't feel relieved when I had to take a break from buying. Instead, it made me feel guilty for buying necessities. Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting feedback, Lisa. I think this is always one of those processes that you should approach judgment-free, right? So any time that you feel you're judging yourself for your purchases or not purchasing or, whatever it is, take a step back from it, take a deep breath, and just reset your thought pattern. You obviously need to purchase necessities, right? And what you're learning here is the difference between a necessity and a habitual purchase. And feeling guilty that you have to buy a necessity, that's a good learning tool. Like, at least now you can identify that you really, really need this. So I always try and kind of flip around the feelings and see how we can find the positive in it. So this is my 4 tips for stopping overbuying. Number 1, educate yourself about the company. Number 2, educate yourself about what you're purchasing. Number 3, take a break from spending. And number 4, remove spending triggers from your life, from your social media, from your news feeds. Even if that means watching less television so you see less commercials, remove all of those triggers, or as many as you can. Unsubscribe from email lists that send you deals every day or every week. Just get rid of those triggers. Those are my 4 tips. So I am so happy you guys were here for podcast. Just a couple of notes. If you are local to the Capital District, I have 4 upcoming workshops that I wanted to share with you. I will be at the Honest Weight Food Co-op on Thursday night doing the basics of home organization. I will be at the Troy Public Library next Tuesday night, also doing the basics of home organization. I'll be at the Niskayuna branch of the Schenectady Public Library next Wednesday night, talking about kids and clutter. And I'll be at the Sand Lake Public Library or Sand Lake Town Library next Thursday night with the basics of home organization. So if you're local to Albany and you want to come and see a workshop and meet me in person, I would love to see you at one of those events. And then make sure that you're following me on social media. This is on a YouTube channel. My podcast is all up there. I have Prioritize Your Sanity, our community, which is growing. It's a beautiful, judgment-free community that you are welcome to join. I would love to see you in there. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please always comment in here. I would love to, I'd like to meet you too, Diane. I would love to hear what you want to hear about on my weekly podcast. So please leave a comment if you have a burning desire to hear a podcast about a particular topic, and I will do my best to make that happen. In the meantime, keep on trucking with your decluttering. Stick with it. Stick with the process even when it gets hard or scary, and know that we have a supportive community here for you if you need it. Have a great Tuesday, everyone.